But I think one of the reasons why my clients get so much satisfaction out of their meetings is not only because they're being held accountable and they have a system and they have structure and they have specific actionable steps, but also because we can distill what matters most based on what they want to accomplish in this life. Like, of all the things that we can do, all the things that we see online, all the things that we could experiment with, what's most relevant? What do we need to prioritize? How do we actually break that down into simple, small, actionable steps that compound with time? And can I give you the underlying understanding of the science so by the time that we conclude, you can continue to build on that momentum on your own?
Andrés Preschel, my brother. Welcome to It's Not That Deep, bro.
Thank you, bro.
I'm fired up to have you on.
I've been very excited to be here.
Oh, man. We've been talking about doing this for a little while now, but we're finally here. We're doing it. I'm very, very fired up.
For those that we delayed it, by the way, because we got to
man.
know each other better.
Yup.
We've both changed a lot and upgraded our lives in so many ways, and so it feels very appropriate.
Absolutely, man. And you know what? I am a big believer in that. I've talked to Jamie about it many times. When I just meet someone and it's like, try to get them on my podcast, it's fine. The conversation still always goes well. But when you can like build some memories together and have some stuff to actually talk about. Yeah, exactly. No, we'll definitely go into all that. I want to give people a little bit of an intro, a little bit of context as to who you are, what you do, that sort of thing.
Sure.
But I have a lot of fun stuff I want to talk about on this episode. So you're a health and performance optimization coach, but I'm not gonna lie, that feels like reductive. Like it feels like it's not enough.
Pretentious.
Yeah.
Pretentious, but also reductive. I can see that. Yeah.
Exactly. But you're a physiologist. You're a founder of Know Your Physio. You are myself and my business partner Jamie's health coach. You're a great friend. You're a brother. You're a son. You're just an amazing dude, man. We love you.
Thank you, brother.
I'm so lucky. One of the best parts of my 2024 was getting to connect with you, getting to learn from you, getting to meet with you every week and know about my physio.
Yeah.
So I just have to start off this podcast by saying this guy right here who's sitting in front of me has changed my life. I can sit here and talk him up like crazy, but I do want to give you a little bit of space to kind of introduce yourself a little bit, how you'd want to be introduced.
For sure. Well, I really appreciate that, man. And, obviously it means a lot to be here with you on the show, but more importantly, to be your friend and to be your coach and to have a relationship and, trust where we can help each other grow in so many different ways. So, I take a lot of pride in what I do, but especially when I get to impact people like yourself, people that I consider brothers of mine, it's just nothing more rewarding than that.
100%, man. And for me, you take a different approach than anyone I've ever seen in the health and wellness, biohacking, whatever space.
Yeah.
A lot of people, on social media and whatnot that you come across, it's this cookie cutter method of you have to do it my way. This is the only way, and this will apply to everybody.
Yeah.
I think what you do differently than everyone else is you actually make it customizable for each person's unique life situation. High performers who are running businesses, CEOs who have a large team and a lot of stress and a lot of things going on. Just overall people who are trying to maximize life and realize their potential. So that to me aligns so much because that's my purpose in life, is realizing my potential. It's why I started this podcast, my business, everything. So you and I, we have a million topics that we can align on, even outside of health. So having that weekly check-in with you, it's like my compass, my North Star for what should I be focusing on this week. I want to kind of start the show out by sharing what did make you very unique from some of these other fitness influencers, health people, whatever.
Should I give a little background?
Yeah, please do that.
So I'll tell you what, I think to go ahead and have what you're saying, there's a lot of people in the world that are very healthy and they get very excited about health and they want to inspire and help others in a meaningful way. Mm-hmm. And I completely respect that. And so what I'm about to say, it's not with the intention to like dim someone's light to make mine brighter. I don't believe in that. But I think that it's one thing to get excited about health and wanting to share that with other people. I think it's another thing to understand that that's a huge responsibility, and that just because it worked for you doesn't mean it's going to work for somebody else. And because you know you doesn't mean you know somebody else. And look, I know now that I'm great at what I do, and this is my life's purpose. Um, but I'm also not the most credible scientist on the planet.
Yeah.
And so what I'm trying to say here is, a lot of people can get excited about it. I got excited about it for reasons that I can get into. Basically, to fix myself. I thought I had a broken brain for my whole life. I was, prescribed maximum dose of Adderall and all that. Anyway, but I went to school for this. Like, I actually became a scientist. So like, I know what it takes to understand the underlying mechanisms and helping people understand that themselves, so that when they incorporate healthy habits and behaviors and things that they're excited about that they see online, they can do it from a place where it really fits into their context, and they have that agency, autonomy, and that confidence in that it's going to work, and they can actually measure objectively how that's working for them in the short term and the long term. Because obviously, like, everybody wants to have more energy, they want to have more mental clarity, they want to have they want to be shredded, they want to be in great shape, they want to feel strong, they want to feel confident. But a lot of people that are in a leadership position now online that have a lot of followers and get a lot of views, they have a lot of survivorship bias, and they think that, oh, it worked for me, and like I can make great videos, and like I could. Sure, you can help someone to an extent, but I work with high performers, people that are already really dialed in and are really good at what they do, but that sacrifice a lot to get there, and oftentimes that's their health and well-being and their sleep and their nutrition. And I want to help them because they're already so self-aware and they're so obsessive. I think I can identify with that, and I can help them take an approach based in their science that helps take them to that next level and leverage their health so they can keep performing the way they want for as long as possible. That's the kind of niche that I find myself in, and there's many reasons why I've ended up there. But I love working with like very self-aware, very ambitious people and helping them take it to like the nth degree, with the help of my team and my network and my process, like getting super granular and super scientific.
Yeah, it's not like you're saying you necessarily just like turn away people, but you definitely are the type of person who is best suited to help someone who's not starting from zero.
Yeah, not a beginner for sure.
Someone who actually has experimented with different things and is coming to you with a context of their health of like, hey, look, I tried keto, I tried intermittent fasting, I tried this, I tried that. And like, I think if I'm you, don't let me speak for you, but like if I'm you, I'd rather have the person who's tried some things, but is overall aware and cares about their health and doesn't just give up and like, oh, screw it, I'm just gonna eat McDonald's every day and throw in the towel and just live this high cortisol, stressed out life because I'm a CEO.
Right. There's a great, so one of my favorite quotes of all time, I think aligns very much so with what you just said. And it's by an author. Her name is Elizabeth King. She's an incredible author. And it goes, process saves us from the poverty of our intentions. Everybody that wants to get healthy, they have that intention. They want to look better. They want to feel better. They want to live longer, prevent disease, revert disease, etc. But we have to find a process that is realistic and attainable for us, and that's actually going to help us change at the level of our identity if we're going to do this sustainably and for the rest of our lives. And so I think for a lot of people that I help and that are meant to receive my help, if I can put it that way, it's people that have that intention and they haven't found the right process. Like, I think one of the reasons, and I'm going to speak for you, and hopefully this is a line. But I think one of the reasons why my clients get so much satisfaction out of their meetings is not only because they're being held accountable and they have a system and they have structure and they have specific actionable steps, but also because we can distill what matters most based on what they want to accomplish in this life. Like, of all the things that we can do, all the things that we see online, all of the things that we could experiment with, what's most relevant? What do we need to prioritize? How do we actually break that down into simple, small, actionable steps that compound with time? And can I give you the underlying understanding of the science so by the time that we conclude, you can continue to build on that momentum on your own? Like, I try to get my clients to, effectively graduate as quickly as possible, but I want to make sure that through the relationship that I build with them, that I can actually truly see at the core why this matters so much and what they need to do in their lives to accomplish that level of change. So it's a blend between like being around long enough as a coach and as a friend to build that trust and relationship where I can relay the most significant information that's going to transform their life, but also giving them the confidence that in that by the time that they conclude with me, they can continue to improve on their own and doing that as quickly as possible.
And that's what I've seen as well. I think like your superpower is discernment, like and being able to take all of this noise and all of this information and all of a person's like past traumas and injuries and whatever they're bringing to the table in that first meeting with you, and being like having everything melt away and like, okay, these are the three things like we're gonna start with. No, but shouldn't I do? Stop.
Yeah.
We're gonna start here. Like, let's get your blood tested. Let's actually see where we're at. Let's measure some things. Let's just tell me what you ate this week. Like,
Yeah.
how are you sleeping? Do you track it? Do you use a Whoop or some kind of sleep tracker? Like, just let's start at a baseline and let's remove all of the Instagram, these viral videos that make people, even very smart people, think, oh, should I be doing that? Should I be taking that supplement? Is this thing the answer? Like, and that's what I really love about your system over a lot of health coaches.
Thank you, man. And it's funny you mentioned, like, I was thinking about this the other day, you know, how a lot of people, really, really smart people that are in my inner circles will tell me, like, hey, man, I saw this viral video of this, like, one thing I have to do. And it's like a case of like the chicken or the egg. It's like, well, do the people that made the video, like, they probably went viral because they know how to, like, hook people. They know how to work the algorithm. And then they got so much exposure and so much engagement and everyone's commenting. And now it seems like this is what you have to do. But, you know, is it actually that relevant and that important? Because if it was, you probably would have heard about it before, or it would have been a more common thing. Because honestly, man, for most people, the things that they need to do to see a transformation in their life and actually step into their excellence is things that we already know. It's like, it's the basics, but it's like, how do we actually incorporate that in your life in a sustainable way and prioritize what's right, what's wrong, and when do we do it? So,
And I could tell you, like, as you know, one of your clients, and you being one of ours as well, and you know, us meeting every week and seeing every week. You know, some weeks suck. Like I'm going
No,
through a
for sure.
move, I'm going
Yeah.
through some stuff in my personal life. You know, things are whatever happening. What's different about you is it's like you look at a whole picture of your health and not just what are your macros, what are your blood levels saying, like how many calories did you eat, like
If I don't
whatever.
do it myself, I mean, I wouldn't recommend it, but obviously I recommend things that are beyond what I've tested everything I recommend, by the way.
Yeah,
Outside of the
you are your
literature.
number one guinea pig.
Sure.
Yeah,
But like, I'm going to make sure that, yeah, that we see the full context, you
exactly.
know, because it's relevant.
Yeah,
Like I can tell you, hey man, I know that you want to optimize your body composition. Here's what we should do, but I'm not going to ignore this massive cloud that is. But I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you what to focus on so that you can regulate your nervous system to get you back on track with what you should be doing for your health and well-being. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychoanalyst. I would never claim to be those things, and I respect my boundaries. But I'm a physiologist and I'm a neuroscientist and I'm a coach. So
Yep.
I'm going to make sure that your body and your mind has the foundations to fix itself, to heal itself, and to give you the self-awareness and, you know, when and how you can do that.
and I don't think you give yourself enough credit. I know, like legally and whatever, you have to say, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a this, I'm not a that, but you are taking little pieces of those practices and adding them to yours without like, you know, without giving anyone, like you're not writing prescriptions for antidepressants or anything. I'm not saying you do that, but you listen. You do a really, I think one of your number one skills is just listening and just being present. And you literally turn your phone on airplane mode and you're just there. You're present and it's like, okay, what's my guy going through right now? Well, you know, I'll give you guys all an example. Like earlier this year, I mean, I moved like 3 times this year, like a lot of moves. And when I met you and we started working together, that was like one of the big things. Is like going through a move, and it was a big move, a lot of stressful things.
Statistically more stressful than divorce.
That's crazy to me, first of all. That's wild. And yeah, we sit down and I'm like, oh, yo, he's gonna like this. And I remember being like, yo, so I cold plunge like 4 times, 5 times a week. And you just ask this very simple question. Why? Like,
Yeah.
well, no, like, you know, you're supposed to, like, cold plunges are good. Like, you're supposed to, like, I heard it's like good for you and stuff. And I'm not a physiologist. I'm not a scientist. I am a consumer of like what I hear is good. I'm like, fuck it, I'll do it. So I was cold plunging. I had this random goal. No rhyme or reason to this. Just at the beginning of the year, I'm like, I'm going to do 150 cold plunges this year. And I was on track when I met you. I was like, I was doing it 3-4 times a week. And you just asked me why. And I'm like, well, I mean, I couldn't give you a good reason. You're like, look, I'll tell you what, stop that right now. I was like, what? Is there something wrong with cold plunges? You're like, no, not necessarily. Like, there can be a very useful tool, but you have too many hermetic stressors right now.
Dude, I think you just said that.
Yeah.
This guy knows his physiology, ladies and gentlemen.
I got a good coach. What can I say? So, and I was like, but what does that even mean? Like, I mean, wouldn't that help calm me down? I was like, no, deep. It'll make you feel good for a second, but then it resets your stress levels, and now you're just more stressed at baseline.
Yeah.
Something like that, you said. And I'm just like,
this is excellent. Wow, you are a great student, my man. This is incredible.
and I took it to heart. I stopped cold plunging. I did the odd one at an event, or maybe once a month just for fun with some friends at the Standard or something. But I stopped doing it, and actually it made a tremendous difference. I was stressing myself out, and I couldn't figure out why I'm so anxious and stressed all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, it's because you have real reasons to be stressed out.
Yeah.
Focus on those, and let's get your sleep right. Let's get you moving. Let's go bare minimum with it right now in this season, and then we'll build on that. And we did exactly that.
Right. And so let me know what you're comfortable with me sharing here about your context, because we can dig into this a little bit.
Absolutely, go all cards.
I think I'll find the right balance between sharing enough about your context to really nail this and send this point home, and then respecting your privacy. So check it out. When we met, I think you were feeling overwhelmed with the move and other things that were happening, and a lot of the habits and behaviors that we pick up that make us unhealthy tend to be the result of an unregulated or dysregulated nervous system, right? Like, we end up making a lot of decisions impulsively and emotionally that aren't aligned with our higher purpose and what we really want. And so for a lot of people, that can mean massive fluctuations in their weight and body composition. It could mean feeling burnt out. It can mean a lot of things. It sets the stage for disease, right? And so what I saw was, like, you had, again, going back to this quote, process saves from the poverty of our intentions. You had the best intentions. Like, a lot of healthy people are cold plunging, and cold plunging has benefits. And even if we did it 150 times a year, there are still some benefits to that, right? Especially like the mental callus, like that willpower center of the brain, eliciting neuroplasticity on the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, the willpower center, and it's associated with more success. Sure. But dude, big picture for you is, like, we are already objectively stressed out. There's a lot of chronic stress, like, in the background, right?
Yeah.
And if we are adding in stress deliberately, we have to be careful with that, because even hormetic stress, which is a fancy way of saying a positive form of stress, so it's still stress, but it's stress that generates a positive adaptive response that makes us more resilient, but that assumes that we have the right recovery, rest and recovery built in there. It's like going to the gym, right? It's like when you go into the gym, you are quite literally destroying muscle. You're creating an environment of inflammation. You're breaking things down. And in order to gain stronger tissue and build muscle, you have to take time off. You have to get great sleep. You have to get adequate nutrition, right? All 3 macronutrients to support that muscle growth. And it was just to optimize it. That's just the bare minimum. So same thing with, going to the cold. Like, you're stressing your body out, but you're doing it intentionally, and you're crossing your fingers and hoping that you have enough of what it takes to effectively recover. So yes, immediately in the short term, you're going to feel an endorphin rush, and that's just your body, like, protecting you because it was very stressful. It's like when you are in a terrible car accident, God forbid, and you get like that rush of adrenaline and you don't feel the pain, right? And you can, like, get up and literally you can step out of the car that just got totaled, and you can walk to the side of the street so that you don't get hit by another car.
Yeah.
But then you go into the hospital and, like, every bone is fractured, right?
It dumps, yeah.
So basically, it's that endorphin response is built into our survival, like, instinct. And a lot of people will, like, run with that, and they go, oh, but I feel so good after the cold. It's like, okay, great. And I'm sure when you go and you work out and you look in the mirror, you feel a pump, but your muscle's been destroyed. You're not going to gain muscle in the gym. You created the stimulus to gain muscle in the gym. You created the stimulus to become more resilient in the cold. But if you stack up all these hormetic stressors, like, you were doing, for example, caloric restriction, you were doing, which is just burning more than you consume, right? In an effort to lose some fat. You were doing cold exposure, maybe some intermittent fasting, some HIIT training, some weightlifting. You stack all these up, and that's a massive load of stress that you're deliberately adding on.
On top of all of the business,
Yeah,
personal, crazy things going on, like
Exactly.
all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and so a lot of high performers, right, people that are extremely ambitious, that demand the best of themselves, that are going 100% all the time, people that I identify with, people that I really like, I put myself in this category, and I'm not anyone, by the way, can be a high performer. Like, I think I don't necessarily think it takes a special kind of person. I think everyone on this planet knows something that you don't, and anyone can become an expert in anything. And when you find that obsession and you give yourself permission to have the hyper focus on something, you are a high performer. You can become a high performer, and you are a high performer.
Yeah.
But when you demand that level from yourself, there's so much that we sacrifice. And in this case, you were sacrificing a lot, and you just weren't conscious of it. And so there were a lot of unconscious habits and behaviors that weren't aligned with the high performance version of yourself, because you know that the way that you look and feel and the way that you show up is related to your success in business. But now all of a sudden, the habits that you're making and the decisions you make every day aren't aligned with that.
Yeah.
Right? So then we have to obviously deconstruct that and figure out the system that is going to work for you.
Yeah. And it was a negative feedback loop too, because it's like, okay, it's like on paper, what I thought, I'm doing the right things.
Yeah.
I'm not lazy by any means. I'm not like, I didn't actually need the cold plunge I didn't need more callus. I was doing a lot of other things and I had a lot going on already. So what was more important for me was to change that into a positive feedback loop that's actually like, I'm starting to see some results. And then from seeing those physical results, it's like, oh, I want to do more of that. Then it's like, I'm feeling better. Well, I want to keep feeling better.
Yeah.
So it's like these little changes. I mean, another small but huge one was, hey, Deep, I want you to stop eating 3 hours before bed.
Yeah.
I was like, well, why? Like, I mean, that's when I eat. I mean, I'm Indian. Like, we don't eat at like fucking 5 p.m., bro. I eat at like 9, 10 o'clock, and I'm trying to be in bed around like midnight, 1 o'clock latest. How am I gonna do that? But I'm just like, you know what? Maybe this guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He was right about the cold plunges. Let's try that. I did that, and man, I'm not saying that's just this one thing. It's the positive feedback loop that I'm talking about. That's like a bunch of things all together.
Yeah.
But man, I'm down 45 pounds, and I feel amazing. I'm commanding respect in every room that I go in. I just feel a lot more energy, a lot more like passion and gusto for life. I'm just like, I feel great.
More present, more clear. Yeah.
And I just want to do more of those things that keep feeding that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's awesome to see how these things compound, and it's like, what my overwhelming theme is like, let's give the body the chance to do what it wants to do what it's designed to do. Let's leverage these evolutionarily conserved mechanisms in the modern day by understanding how they came to be and how detached we are from them in this modern environment.
Yeah.
So we give the body the foundation for success when we get deep, efficient sleep in this modern environment. It's impossible with our phones and blue light and eating late and like all these, stressors.
Yeah.
But that's the number one thing. Like the sleep is so far upstream of every other habit. And the reason why having an earlier dinner is so good is two reasons. Most people don't know the second reason. Everyone thinks that they know the first reason, but here's the physiologist take on it. So the first reason is you get sleepy. There's a number of different things that make you sleepy. Like obviously people know melatonin, right? You start to see melatonin accumulate once you get a certain physiological cue, typically from the sun, the sun going down at a lower angle. Blue light gets filtered through the atmosphere more because it's at the lower angle. So all of a sudden there's less blue light. And your suprachiasmatic nucleus, your biological clock, understands that the sun's going down, it's time to go to sleep. So you start to accumulate melatonin. Obviously nowadays sun goes down, lights go on, and we don't get that effect. But the point is that melatonin accumulation makes you sleepy. Adenosine also, like when you consume caffeine, one of the mechanisms by which it gives you energy, it's actually reducing the perception of fatigue by competing for
you feel less tired.
Yeah. Reducing the perception of fatigue, exactly. So anyway, there's a bunch of things that make you sleepy. But what actually initiates deep sleep is a decline in your core body temperature. This is well established in the literature. And so if you have a meal before bed or surrounding bedtime, what happens is a big meal can definitely make you sleepy. One of the reasons why that makes you sleepy is because you have a limited blood supply and you have to redirect blood according to what the priority is in the body. Right? If you're sprinting, arms, legs, extremities, central nervous system, you're eating and digesting, that blood goes away from those areas and it goes towards the digestive tract. And most of the calories you burn at rest every single day is your digestive system, like maintaining itself. So what happens, what I'm trying to say here is, you have a late meal, you get all this warm blood in the midsection and all this like food. And now your core body temperature is really high, but you feel tired because your arms, legs, and brain have been deprived of this blood. So you're like hazy and like lazy and you feel weighed down by your food, right? Especially foods that are high in tryptophan, precursor of serotonin that eventually becomes melatonin. But either way, there's another reason, and that it prevents, optimal sleep quality. And this is the reason that most people don't know, and I think it's super interesting. There's ways you can biohack this. It's that when we are in a fed state, our primary glucose, or primary fuel at that point is glucose, right? And then after a few hours after we eat, we enable a bit of a ketogenic state, where we're using primarily fat as a fuel source. And this is just an intermittent, metabolic switch that happens. However, what's really relevant here is when we're in a state of ketosis, we see a shift in something called RQ in physiology, the respiratory quotient. What this means is we start to breathe less times per minute in a ketogenic state. It's just the way that beta oxidation of fat works, and it's a slower process, and yada, yada. The point is that in a ketogenic state, we breathe less times per minute, which equals more parasympathetic activity. And that is going to support our sleep. So it's the combination of these two things. And so the more that we delay eating, typically the better we're going to sleep, obviously to an extent. I know Brian Johnson is like 9 hours, which is insane, but that's what works for him. You can biohack this, taking a walk after you eat. We made a video on the postprandial stroll, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's great. Another thing is you can take exogenous ketone esters to put you in a ketogenic state before bed. So there's a number of ways you can biohack it if you can't afford to eat so, early.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway.
I really appreciate the deep scientific explanation for all this. We could probably sit here for 3-4 hours going into all of
We
those.
could. Let's get into the fun questions.
Those little things. But I mean, the podcast is called "It's Not That Deep," so we won't go that deep. And look, you're gonna have a billion people and health nuts and whatever get you on their show and go into the molecular compounds of
Fair enough. Ask what you want to ask.
I appreciate the hell out of it, though.
You've already heard it 500 times.
No,
anyway,
I
but
love
just
it.
want to make sure I educate the listeners.
I love this stuff, but what I want to kind of switch gears to a little bit more of is something you talk about often in our sessions, and it's change at the identity level, right? Because that to me is something that really speaks to me, and I think the listeners as well are going to really relate to this. Anytime you make some kind of real change, like the lasting change in your life, it has to do with your identity. I want to hear your thoughts and your philosophy on this and how it's evolved over time.
Yeah, so it's a fascinating topic, and I'm so glad you brought this up because it's the only way that anyone is going to accomplish meaningful change is if that change reflects what's true to their identity. Because when those two things are aligned, then they're going to be on a successful path for eternity. So I first picked up this concept, this idea through James Clear and his work. Atomic Habits is his best-selling book. Most people know about that book. And that's probably, in my opinion, that's the most relevant lesson in the book, is that there's 3 levels of change that someone can accomplish. There's habits, which everybody wants better habits, but that's a relatively superficial layer.
Especially this time of year, everyone and their mom has like new goals and they want to do so many things.
Yeah, every year for the past, I don't know how many years, Atomic Habits has sold millions of copies, specifically in the month of January.
It makes sense.
Everybody wants better habits. And so anyway, habits themselves are relatively superficial, but the book is called Atomic Habits because it's like you should start enabling habits that are so small that you can't not do them, and then they compound over time. And same thing with bad habits. Like the worst habits, this is like I'm going to get back on track, but I want to make sure I emphasize this too. The worst habits, as he describes in the book, are those that are so seemingly insignificant that we justify them, and then those compound in a negative direction and they become a real issue. By the time that we realize how big of an issue they are, they're extremely difficult to undo because the change is taking place at a rate where it's become part of our life and identity. And now it's like we have to cut off one of our arms to be better. So, because if I tell you, hey, Deep, let's go in the back and get fucking wasted, you're going to be like, dude, that's not me.
Yeah.
But if I tell you, hey, man, let's after this podcast, let's have a glass of wine. It's funny because I actually wanted to have a glass of wine with you. But you know what I mean? Like if you have a glass of wine with every podcast, all of a sudden it's a big issue.
Yeah. And like,
so anyway, getting back on track here. So that's the habit layer. Then there's systems. So systems, you can think about them as like routines, like how do you typically go about your day, right? But still, habits and systems are almost like things that feel separate from us. They're things that we have to kind of like, where we feel like we're going out of our way to like be this person that we're not yet. We still label them as habits and systems. So it's like, well, I have to operate this way. Well, why do you have to? Well, because I want to be this person. I want to step into my excellence. I want to bring my ideal self to life.
Yeah.
And now that brings me to the next topic, the next layer of change, which is identity. That's the deepest layer. And in order to accomplish change at that level, it requires having the right habits and systems, but it also requires doing them long enough where it just becomes part of who you are. And it's like just your second nature. Like it's just who you are. It's how you operate. There's another interesting book I recommend people check out if they're interested in this topic and diving deeper into like the power of the subconscious and how to, there's all different kinds of methods and techniques that you can use, visualization, for example, to steer your subconscious in the direction that you want your identity to kind of like flow in and become. That might sound a bit abstract, but what I'm trying to say here is you can program your subconscious. It's called subconscious for a reason. You're not conscious of it. You're not aware of it. But the subconscious is something that inevitably, it's responsible for the vast majority of decisions that we make every single day, most of which we're not even aware of, obviously. But those small decisions add up to become our identity, to become our personality. And so a practice that people can check out and tune into and read more about in this book that I'm about to mention, is something as simple as having a session with yourself every morning when you first wake up, when your mind hasn't yet been polluted by any social media post, by any emails, any text. You're just with yourself. You have just achieved, hopefully, what is a nice, deep, efficient night of sleep. You're waking up with yourself, and then you want to visualize what an ideal day would look like. What would the ideal version of myself? How would the ideal version of myself go about today? Like, choose to be that person now. Understand what that would look like. Choose to be that person, and then try to be as absolutely specific as possible in what that would feel like, what that would look like, how you would be perceived, what you would be wearing, like the kind of energy that you would bring into a room. Like, be extremely specific, and then notice how good that would feel. So once you visualize and you make it specific, your subconscious works in a way where it doesn't know the difference between real life and very vivid imagination. But what you do is you assign a layer of positive reinforcement by thinking to yourself, how good would it feel at the end of the day if I enabled the ideal version of myself and I made these specific habits and decisions and showed up in this way? And now you start to assign the positive reinforcement. And now what happens is your subconscious, like a heat-seeking missile, basically craves the unconscious and little decisions and behaviors that are aligned with a higher purpose. And before you know it, you end up changing your identity. I shit you not. I read this book during COVID. It's called Psycho, like Psycho, Cybernetics, Cyber.
That's so crazy. I knew you'd say that, and I wrote it right there.
Crazy. Why, you wanted to discuss that?
No, because I just knew you were going to say that.
Oh, that book. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's
as you were talking about it, I just knew that's where you were going to go.
It's an incredible book. It gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. The 3 books that changed my life in a really meaningful way, just taught me how to think outside of what I learned in school as a scientist, would just help me operate as a human being and as a professional, and help me leverage myself and leverage my time. Is definitely going to be, Psycho-Cybernetics, The 4-Hour Workweek, and The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. Those 3 books have helped me in a meaningful way to go back to identity, like to really feel grounded in my identity and to understand the role that living my life the way I do, the way that it helps me be extremely clear with who I am, what I'm here to do, and how I'm going to help other people. And those books help me leverage my time and be super efficient, because that takes real work and change at the level of your identity through small habits and behaviors and decisions and systems that add up. So
What comes first, figuring out your purpose or figuring out your identity? Is there an order, or is it a chicken or the egg? Do they happen at the same time?
that's a fucking great question.
Because I actually want to know myself.
Figuring out your purpose or figuring out your identity?
Does one lead to the other?
I'll tell you what worked for me. I actually, and I haven't really spoken about this on any other show. I haven't really told much people about this. Maybe 2 people that know about this. I had like a quarter life crisis, and I think a lot of people in college do. But I don't know if, I don't think I noticed anyone going through as tough of a time as I did when I was in school. Maybe 1 or 2 people. I thought I wanted to be a doctor my whole life. Seeing my dad and my grandfather, and my mom, like all of our dinners together as a family, which was pretty much every night, they would show up and they'd tell us how rewarding it was to help someone. Like my mom's a dentist, to help somebody smile, right? So people that would hide their teeth because they were so ashamed of what their mouths look like. Now they have a bright smile. My dad's an eye surgeon. Help people fucking see. Like every day, my dad helps people that are blind to see.
Wow.
Every day. So like imagine, like as a young person, and I think my brain is just programmed for science. Like I've always been very scientific. Imagine like how rewarding it is, and like you look up to your parents and you're like, man, like I want to be like that. And for the longest time I wanted to do that. I was, gonna go to med school. I shadowed a bunch of doctors, and that was part of my identity, right? Like becoming this person was part of my identity. But as I started taking some of my classes in school as a pre-med student, I'll tell you what, I eventually got really good at school, but I hated school. Like the system itself, it was not for me. What I'm trying to say is I had a bit of like a wake-up call, and I realized that I wanted to honor what my parents taught me and the values that they showed me, but I wanted to do it in a different way, because after all the shadowing that I had done with doctors, I realized that they all had one frustration in common that really spoke to me, because it's what I experienced as a patient, and having my psychiatrist prescribing me Adderall and getting so detached from my body and my health, becoming an absolute fucking wreck, which was the worst thing that ever happened to me, not the best thing that ever happened to me. The point is that what all these doctors had in common is that their patients would come back for the same procedure over and over again because the root problem wasn't being addressed. So I shadowed the head of liver transplant, of transplant surgery in Kentucky, like Dr. Gidali. And dude, I had patients that would come back for their 3rd liver transplant because they were alcoholics and they just didn't know how to manage their stress in their lives. And imagine 3 liver transplants.
And you're not going to stop drinking.
This is one of the best doctors on the planet.
Wow.
Right? Like he knew that he wasn't, like, yeah, he was helping people survive, but he wasn't really fixing their problem. I shadowed an interventional radiologist that eventually became my business partner. And he was sick and tired of putting stents in people's arteries because they wouldn't fucking stop smoking, and they wouldn't stop having these terrible habits and behaviors. I said, I don't know if you know what a stent is. It's like a metal mesh that you put into a vein and artery that is clogged to open it back up. But you're not fixing the problem. Guess what? You have to replace those stents. You have to put new stents. I shadowed a dermatologist that was Harvard trained, and people would come back because they had cancer and this and that. It's like, I want to help people at a deeper level to change their behavior so that they never have these issues to begin with. And I want to help young people get on track so so none of this stuff compounds. And I could identify with that. The point, going back to the original question that you asked, the reason I'm sharing all this is because I had an identity crisis, because I wanted to become a doctor, but then I was like, I want to help people in a different way and apply those values. And basically I went through and I did this like ridiculous list. I still have it on my phone somewhere. It's like years old on my notes in my notes app. I have a complete list of all the things that I'm interested in, all the things that I don't want to do, every single position that I could have. This is before ChatGPT.
Yeah.
This is like by hand.
Yeah.
Dude, every single career path that I could choose, what that would look like, what I would like about it, what I wouldn't like about it. Like I spent months, and this is not something I was excited to do, bro. This sucked. I wanted to follow my parents' footsteps. It fucking sucked that I didn't feel a connection to that. And I was suffering in school because of that. It fucking sucked. I cried to 2 professors. I failed 2 classes in college. Okay. And it wasn't until I would come home every single day. I'm not making this up. I would come home every single day from school, my first 2 years, and I would sit in my car at night for hours, blasting music, like just trying to figure out who the fuck I am and what the fuck I'm here to do. I would look myself in the mirror like a fucking zombie. I shaved my head at one point because I just didn't want to look at myself anymore. It was a really dark time. My great grandfather passed away, and it was just like a bad time. And then also, first 2 years, you have weed out classes. Like I was taking organic chemistry and physics and biochemistry. It was really tough. Anyway, I decided to switch majors for like a 3rd time, and then I decided on a whim to take like a nutrition and physiology class. Dude, the first day I stepped into that class, I'm like, why the fuck am I here? Right?
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was somewhat cool because I had done a lot of that. I had applied some of that and felt better, and I gained a lot of muscle in college. Sorry, in high school, and got off ADD meds through this process, and it's why I ended up getting into the medical field to begin with, combined with my parents' approach. I don't want to go too far on this. I've already gone very far on this tangent.
You're good, man. You're good.
But the point is, like, I walked into this class, and the professor comes in, and dude, just get this. He's like this confident guy. He's super fit, brilliant, and he's an athlete. And in the first 30 minutes of that class, I learned things about my body that I felt were like scientific laws that every single person needs to know about themselves. And I literally looked around the class and I'm like, I can't believe that I've had to go through all this bullshit to be in this class to learn this essential knowledge about my body. Because every time I left this class, I knew more about myself and my well-being, and I felt better every single time I left the class.
Wow.
I was like, I can't believe I had to suffer this much, go through this much bullshit to learn what should be taught in fucking kindergarten.
Yeah.
And not only did he have all the knowledge and experience, and he was the head of the nutrition and physiology program, Dr. Wes Smith, but this guy lived what he preached. He's an athlete, triathlete.
Wow, that's
confident,
rare with like a professor.
Incredible guy.
Yeah.
So I immediately went up to him he was like doing this internship. I was like, I want to do your internship. Over the years, I leveled up with the internship. I became the manager. I ended up teaching new interns. And because I saw him, right, and I identified with I saw something within him that I identified with, where I still got to honor the values that I had learned, I was able to bring my purpose to life in a different way. So within the following 2 years, the second half of school, I became top of my class.
Wow.
Like president, honor roll. Like, dude, I ended up starting my master's while I was still in undergrad. Like I said, I managed the internship. I got a scholarship for my master's. I built a company that I was shadowing for lifestyle medicine. Like all of a sudden, I identified with something in somebody else, and I found my purpose.
Wow.
So yeah.
First of all, thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate that. I mean, I never knew that. That's incredible, man. I think in a funny way I can relate. I mean, I thought I was going to be a doctor too, and it was for different reasons. Not as strong and not as prevalent in my family, but for very similar reasons. I mean, my grandfather was like a headmaster of a school, and my father was supposed to be a doctor. The classic Indian joke, doctor, lawyer, engineer, or you're not successful type of thing, right? Well, that was very much real in my upbringing as well. And not to say that it was like my parents would disown me or something if I didn't be a doctor, but I'm young, I'm impressionable, and it's like, okay, I want to make them happy, and I want to make them proud, and I want to follow in the footsteps that they're laying out for me. And so for my grandpa, my mom, my dad, it was so important that like I go into medicine. And I was always good in science classes in high school, and you're like 16 when you got to make the decision of like what you're going to do in college. I got very lucky that I got selected to go while I'm in grade 8. I got to go to the University of Ottawa to college for 1 week on this program they had where you get to go and see what it's like to be in college, to give you like an idea. I'm in grade 8. I remember I go in to the health sciences wing, and I actually went and saw cadavers, and I saw I really thought, not even a doctor, I thought I was going to be a heart surgeon. I would go to every family gathering, every like family thing, and everyone's like, oh, you know, Deep's gonna be a doctor. Like they'd be so proud of me. I'd see the like pride in my dad and everyone like, hey, he's gonna be a doctor. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be not just a doctor, I'm gonna be a heart surgeon. And then I started taking some of these classes in high school and whatever, and I saw it and I was like, I don't like this. Like, I don't enjoy this at all. I'm good at it. I don't enjoy it at all. I like biology. I couldn't care less about chemistry. It just didn't click. Like, I didn't enjoy labs and lab tests and all these things.
So you're
and
like, what is
textbooks.
this mundane work? Like, how's this gonna get me closer to what I really want to do and really want to be?
And then I'm like, I'm signing up for 15 more years of this. Like,
Yeah, it's a lot.
I know I'm not doing it. Luckily, I pivoted, but I can totally relate with the identity crisis that causes, because I was like, oh shit, now what?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, you have to kill that part of your identity.
you do, and that phoenix has to rise to the ashes and become someone else, right? And that's a gut-wrenching thing, to like break yourself back down and rebuild. And those moments in your car and doing that exercise and all that stuff to figure what it was, and then changing your major 3 times, you said?
Yeah.
To find the thing, but then it really did click. I think it's so beautiful that you followed that, because think of how many people are out there that are doctors that actually that wasn't their dream. And actually, maybe they've done like 700 liver transplants and they become jaded or cynical, or they're just like kind of like, well, their why might have changed. I'm not saying like doctors are heroes. They're most of them are incredible people, and I'm not talking down on the professional in any way. It's not what I'm saying. But I would much rather have the doctor who actually genuinely cares about people and whatever. Me, I was doing it for the wrong reasons. And so I'm glad that you also went back and found what are the right reasons for you. And dude, look, you're doing it.
Yeah. No, it's
You're
unbelievable.
doing it now every day. You wake up every day and you get to do what you love.
And I want to share something that just a download that I just got from the universe, whatever you want to call it. This is kind of funny, but I really mean it, because it goes with the name of your show. Like, I'll tell you what my secret to success is in one line. This is my secret to success. I swear to God, really, like God is listening. Hashem's listening to this. I always knew that there was something deeper. I mean it. Like, I would be in these classes and I just kind of see everyone just kind of getting by and, oh, like, yeah, I just got to beef my resume and like go through the motions. I was like, there's something more authentic than this. There's something deeper and more meaningful here. And it was kind of like, I was like, you know what? Like, how can I bring, like, I don't know what this is, but I need to bring it to life. And I knew that in order to do that, I had to take better care of myself. I had to get off these fucking meds that were just helping me acclimate to a broken school system,
Right.
but detaching me from my authenticity. And I had to level up selfishly in order to be selfless and be a leader and be a coach and the friend, brother, son that I needed to be. So I always, bro, if I can look back at every moment that I had, every moment of like that inquietude, like that inner frustration, it's because I always knew that there's something deeper than this that I was meant to do here. And I went all in on that.
Anybody listening, I mean, I think to me that's the biggest takeaway from this episode for me, and just from knowing you and everything that we do and everything that we still want to do and accomplish. It's like, do it from a space of like, what's that deep itch? You know, I know we call it, it's not that deep, but it is that deep. Like, it really is. You have to find that deep itch. For me, you know, I was working in this 9-to-5 job in the pensions department in the federal government of Canada.
That's insane.
In a cubicle, clocking in, clocking out, like the most boring job ever. I wanted to fucking put a bullet in my brain. I hated it. So it was so the opposite, the antithesis of my identity, of who I am and who I have become now. Starting the show and all the things that have come from it is so much more aligned with who I am. I reclaim back my voice.
Yeah.
Not just literally with an actual platform to speak, but
Like your inner voice
my
too.
inner voice and my calling. And so I really appreciate that. And again, we can dive into that really far, but in the essence of time, I want to move on to one thing that I'm genuinely curious about. I always have been, because you still pursue higher education even when outside looking in, someone might say like, you broke out of the matrix, bro. Like, why academia still? Like, what's the why behind that? My question is, how do you balance these esoteric findings and like more soul, bro, side of health and wellness, and the academic, and these medical journals, and a lot of them are purchased by big pharmaceutical companies, and not to get too down that rabbit hole, but like, how do you balance?
It's a great question, man. I'm so happy you asked this, because I asked myself this too, and it's something that I noticed and I haven't really found the words to describe, and this is an opportunity to do that. So I thank you. So yeah, I mean, for those who don't know, I went to school for physiology, exercise physiology with a minor in psychology. I did a master's in physiology and nutrition. Unfortunately, due to COVID, and though I was on a full scholarship and was graduate assistant, because of COVID, the classes stopped running, so I never finished that degree. And I didn't, dude, I mean, between then and now, even my mentor, the guy that I mentioned earlier, Dr. Wes Smith, who inspired me, he's still to this day my mentor. He told me, dude, screw this, focus on your business. Okay. And I did that. Thank God I did that. But anyway, I wanted to return to academia, and get this master's that I'm now doing in biomedical neuroscience through the University of Florida. Because number one, I mean, it's the inception to what started all of this. I mean, the brain and neuroplasticity, realizing that I don't have a broken brain, that I can actually change and upgrade my brain through applied science, and seeing and feeling that difference got me obsessed. And it's literally the inception behind everything that I do. I wanted to kind of return to that, and I realized, look, there's a number of reasons why I did this. That's one of them, but also being inspired by people like Huberman, right? And also being inspired by like this rise in AI, where like this computer is getting smarter than us and doing a lot of work for us. Dude, to this day, no matter what, the most incredible supercomputer that exists is right here. And if we can understand that at a deeper level, I think as an individual, as a professional, you're going to have ultimate leverage. And it's not like I need to have power over people. It's like, no, I just want to understand people at a deeper level to help them understand themselves and to be a high-performing version of themselves.
Which, sorry to interrupt, is still in alignment with your purpose and with your identity.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter that it's like, hey, he's doing his master's. It's in alignment.
Yeah, no, it's for sure.
It actually is helping.
Yeah, I mean, we're learning about. I'm learning about the thing that's helping me learn.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Weird. It's really weird. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. I'll be in these classes sometimes, and like my brain is like, I'm like looking at the screen, and I'm like, I get like eye strain because I've been staring at like neuroanatomy for like 3 hours and learning about all these different neurotransmitters, and then I'm like, this thing in here is like getting exhausted learning about itself. It's just so weird to me.
That's so funny.
It's really interesting, and it's really interesting
funny.
interacting with my professors. And like recently, I was in a disagreement with a professor about something he's been so helpful thus far, and then like he was a real stickler about something that I didn't do right, and he gave me a poor grade, and I got really frustrated with him. And then I'm like, the foundations of the frustration and the psychology here are things that we're studying in our classes, and it's just so weird thing. It's a really weird thing. It's really weird, but I love it. I think it's super cool. Anyway, I've had to find that balance. I've had to, because it is a lot of work, excuse my French. But here's what I think, man, is I think with a lot of like the esoteric stuff and like the Solbra kind of, I love Solbra, by the way, great friend of mine.
Yeah, you're a great guy.
So not to talk him down at all, anyway, really to uplift him, because I think that he's brought, what people really want, really crave behind their health is like that like confidence and like that thrill of like living like a king and like a Viking and like accomplishing and like being like a conquistador, right? Like developing, like, like discovering new land and new like opportunities and going on quests and having a family. Like it's like all these things that are so primal, you know what I mean? And basically showing us the relationship that our well-being has in living our best life, and like what it actually looks and feels. He's like a movie. He's like an action figure at this point. You know what I mean? Like you could literally make a sober action figure and you would immediately be able to tell who that is. You know what I mean? That's awesome. Okay. I think that it's important for us to be able to speak that language and see eye to eye on such a primal level what we really want, and I want to help people look and feel that way. But then I also want to have enough of a background where in this modern world, because if you look at a lot of like the images that he posts of these like in a utopia, right? Like in like being like we don't live in that world anymore.
That's true.
So like in a modern world with modern stressors, like for example, like I'm sure raw milk and raw meat is great. Like for in a lot of different esoteric ways, you could say that it's more bioavailable. You could say that it's healthier and that it's the aura of the meat is what you could
Yeah.
sure, great. Unfortunately, we live in a world where that stuff is contaminated. Like if our water is contaminated, what do you think the meat looks like?
Yeah.
The milk.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure it tastes great, very bioavailable. We live in a modern world, bro. This isn't like your local farm.
Yeah, and again,
And you can
this
get
is-
stuff from your local farm and build a
sure.
relationship with your farmers. I'm a huge believer in that. Real quick, just what
Yeah,
I want to
please.
say is like I feel like it's essential to be able to speak the language that everybody wants to speak and everyone gets excited about. The stuff that really sells, and not from a financial perspective, but the stuff that really gets people to light up and get them to invest and be curious about their well-being and wanting to uplift it. Like that's very sexy. All right, how do we actually help you do that in a responsible way in this modern environment? Because bro, like let me tell you that again, all this stuff is really sexy. Everybody wants to get in shape. Everybody's different. Some people can't get in shape or can't demand the best for themselves because they have deeper rooted things that they need to unravel and understand about themselves. I'm qualified in some ways to do that, not in every way possible. That's why I work with a team. The point is that I think there has to be a balance because we live in a modern world.
That's the best answer ever, and actually gives me a lot of clarity and it explains a lot to me, because when I consider, and I'm not trying to just talk about Soul Bra. I love you, bro. I love Soul Bra. He's a great guy. But what's come out of that primal kind of mindset and way of being and way of life does ignore that it's, you know, tweeted from your iPhone.
Yeah,
Right. And that we are living in polluted cities and civilizations that we've created, and that, you know, there's so many more stressors probably now at like a micro scale throughout a day than in those times. It was just like protect family, get food.
Yeah.
You know, so I really appreciate that perspective.
The science is always evolving. As a scientist, you have to understand and respect the scientific method, and you have to be extremely skeptical, and you have to do your due diligence of being on top of the evolving research. And as the world evolves, research evolves. And obviously it's not one-to-one. Like as we learn something, we have to go and test it. And by the time that we test it, we find a result, it could have already evolved. So it's not perfect.
Yeah.
But it's a system that helps you be extremely objective about what's right, what's wrong, how does it work.
Yeah.
And so I think that basically my commitment to getting this master's, yes, credibility is cool, understanding the brain is cool, but it's also a commitment to the scientific method itself and being on top of that and doing my due diligence and thinking like a scientist in a world that wants to do things that are primal and wants to...
And the shortcut, like I
Yeah.
take this, I achieve that.
Yeah,
And that's not
doing
how
just
it works. Yeah.
acknowledging what people want and going, okay, I'm going to give you what you want, but I'm also going to give you what you need.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think you do a fantastic job of balancing the two, bro. Like really, really good. And that's also what makes you world class and stand out and so unique to me, is that you're able to speak both languages. And, you know, to someone who might be more leaning towards like, well, like what medical journal did you read that in? It's like, if we're just taking, for example, circadian rhythm, right? Something that most people on some level, you know, of the spectrum understand. Sun goes up, sun goes down. I sleepy at night, I awake in the morning. You know,
Yeah.
like I think most people get that, right?
Sure.
But you're able to, with your sleep guide and all these, you know, things that you do, take, you know, different supplements, different, you know, aids like blue light blockers.
Yeah, in the
and-
modern
and-
day, it's not as simple as sun goes up, sun comes down.
Exactly.
We live indoors. We don't get
Exactly.
sunlight. Lights go on when we go to sleep. before we go to sleep.
And I love that it's backed up with science. Like I actually do like that and care about that. And that actually, it's like almost this badge that I'm wearing in a weird way whenever I talk to people about working with you. Is like, no, this guy's not just like, he didn't just get certified this weekend as like a nutritionist or like whatever online, and he's just telling me to like count my macros, like, or whatever. There's those people are a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
This guy's actually able to talk about the corpus callosum and the next level, like whatever. All these nuts.
That's so funny, Zach, 'cause I don't think I've ever spoken about the corpus callosum with you.
Whatever, man. I know things too, dog. I know things too.
That's hilarious.
So, anyways, just being able to tie the science and actually knowing your physio, I think is beautiful. We're running out of time here on the episode. I know you got to run, but there's one topic. If we can spare another 10 minutes, you good with that?
What time is it?
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
We can spare another 10 minutes. I really wanted to touch on this. We didn't get to as much, but we'll do many episodes together. All right.
Sure.
So I wanted to talk, I feel like you don't get enough respect or credit, or it's not talked about enough of like how good of a leader and business owner you actually are, right? And balancing the many hats and many roles you have to wear as a leader in business, who is an entrepreneur, who is pushing the pace and trying to do all these things. How do you balance it all, man? How do you make it work? Like,
Yeah, it's a great question, man. Dude, I mean, look, I am obsessed with what I do. It's my life. I've created a lifestyle. Here's something that I knew very early on is it's crazy. I don't know where I gained this wisdom. Like I look back and I'm like, and even I'm a 27-year-old man. Like I'm not the wisest guy on the planet by any means. But back when I first started doing all this and making it a business and a brand, like maybe 6 years ago, I thought to myself, I was like, I don't want to be successful, like sacrifice everything to be successful and then try to find a lifestyle that I like. I want to find the lifestyle that I like and figure out a way to be successful around that lifestyle.
beautiful.
And I think that is one of the most important insights that I've ever had in my life. And bro, I need to give myself a pat on the back for honoring that and actually doing it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's insane because I never expected that I'd be, that I would get the level of recognition, credibility, and have the success that I've had at such a young age. And I really, I try to be as humble as I can in saying that because, but it's just like the reality is I can't even believe that I'm where I am. But I did visualize this. I did bring it to life very deliberately so. And I've had a lot of help and I've had a lot of mentorship and I put in more work than anybody listening could ever imagine. And it's not just like literally behind a computer, seeing clients, making content, doing podcasts, going to conferences. No, it's like inner work, conversations with myself, extremely tough times. Obviously, dude, like I live a blessed life and I grew up very privileged. So I have to say that. But it was very important for me I think the reason I became an entrepreneur was because I didn't want to depend on anybody but myself. And we can get into that. There's some dark shit there. There's some dark things there.
I thought you were gonna say it's because you're an avid RuneScape player.
Oh my God. Oh, dude. Thank God.
Dude, that's the real.
RuneScape taught me how to find the balance in life, bro. Because when you don't want to quest, you got to go skilling. And when you don't skill, you got to quest. And then you got to buy girlfriend for 5K at the GE. That's among other things.
Man, RuneScape actually made me the entrepreneur I am today.
I swear to God, God bless RuneScape. I still play RuneScape to this day. And if anyone looks me up, my IGN is Kubera, like the fish, Cubera. You'll understand how meaningful that game is to me.
Like, I denied everything.
I have a lot of 99s. A lot. I have like 8 99s.
Well, what don't you have a 99 in? What skill?
I've got a lot of skills that there's a lot. All combat skills I have 99s in, obviously. And I have 99 fishing also.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's funny. That game actually taught me a lot because when I was on Adderall, bro, and I was this anxious guy, I was a loner. Dude, I was skeletal. I wasn't even skinny, I was skeletal. I was extremely anxious. I didn't sleep. I had a stutter. So even if I wanted to talk to somebody, I would like fuck it all up and make a fool of myself. And that was my escape. That was my social life. That was how I learned delayed gratification. I mean, obviously it's a video game. There's a lot of instant gratification. But that game, anyone that's played it knows that it takes a long time to be good at anything in that game.
Oh, yeah.
Anything. It's like, So that game taught me a lot about life, and also how to interact with people from all over the world, different languages, and all this. So it was honestly a really meaningful life experience, and I still honor that inner child today by playing the game. So basically, as to your question, because now it's not just address the business owner, the podcaster, the leader, the coach, the friend, the brother, the boyfriend, but also the risky player.
Dude, I mean,
That's a big responsibility.
many layers to this guy for sure.
I'll tell you,
Yeah, go ahead.
basically how I found that balance is just by doing and learning the hard way what doesn't work. I've had a lot of people tell, because there's times where like I'm doing a lot of things right and there's things are going really well, but like many other high performers, you sacrifice a lot in order to be good at those things. And I've learned, dude, bro, the therapy and the psychotherapy I've had to go through and tough conversations with my family when I give up everything to be successful.
It's not easy, man. It's not for the faint of heart.
It's not, it is deep shit.
Yeah.
Deep shit.
But I encourage anybody listening, though, it's like, that's what you gotta fucking do.
No, that's what it takes.
That's what it
No, for
takes.
real. That's what it takes. Because you have to you have to know that there's something deeper, and in order to figure that out, you have to go through the hurdles that are between you and getting to that depth.
Yeah.
And I've had extremely difficult conversations with every meaningful person in my life. Every single one of them. Many conversations where that nobody wants to have, but that need to be had if you're gonna demand that level. And so I think those situations have helped me gain a lot of wisdom, and they've helped me find a balance that gives me a level of satisfaction with myself, but also the people around me that matter to me, being present and available for them too. Because I'm the kind of person, while I might seem like I'm a very extroverted guy because I do podcasts and I go to conferences and I can show up and be this professional, I would still consider myself mostly introverted, believe it or not. Because if we're talking about sports, like I work with athletes, but we're talking about like, who the game and right to in the yeah, like I'm very like black or white with those things. Like there's a few things that I love, and I will do everything it takes to do more of those things. Or things that I don't like, I will find every way you could imagine to not do them. I've built a team that helps me do the things that I don't want to do, that I need to do to get to make ends meet, and I appreciate and value those people in ways that you could never believe. Because they help me do more of what only I can do. Going back to the books that have changed my life, the Almanac of Naval Ravikant and the 4-Hour Work Week just teaches you how to be a more leveraged individual. So you do more of, as a high performer, you can focus and do more of what only you can do and hone in on those skills, outsource, delegate, automate the rest. That will help anybody listening to be an expert in their field. Why? Because in order to be an expert, you need more experience, you need more time. How you gain time back? You have to outsource, delegate, and automate. And so I was able to gain a ton of experience in a very short period of time, because I read those books, I learned how to think that way, and I did that, and I invested heavily into that even when I couldn't afford it, just to afford myself more time to do the things and to find the balance with the things that I actually like and want to do with my life. And if it wasn't for that system, dude, literally, if you put it on me to do and accomplish what my company has accomplished over the years, it would take me 50 years, 100 years to do.
Oh, yeah. No, the team is everything.
Years. You know, we're helping hundreds of people every year. We're transforming hundreds of people.
And those people are transforming thousands of people. The domino effect's unreal. You're changing the world here, bro.
Thank you. I mean, look, I tell myself, and I'm conflicted right now because I'm at a pivot right now where like I'm getting enough exposure where I know that this year I could become a famous person. I know that. Do I want that? I don't know if I want that. I like being a big fish in a small pond. I like working with very closely with people that I identify with and that I believe I'm here to help. But I just think that what the world is demanding of me might be that. So I'm conflicted, but either way, I know that I'm changing the world in the way that I can right now and in the way that I want to, and is aligned with my identity and who I am. But anyway, yeah, man, I've had to sacrifice a lot. I've had to do a lot of really difficult things that most people would never want to do ever, but that is simply what it requires. And there's people around you that are very close to you that will never understand it, will never understand why it means so much to you. And I'll tell you what, you don't have to explain it to them, but you should take ownership and responsibility over how that can influence people around you, and doing your best to make sure that they're being taken care of too. So
Totally.
it is, I'm shooting darts at a moving target, man. I'm constantly seeking ways to improve. I do not have it all figured out at all. I'm a human being, even though I'm a health and performance coach and I look and feel very healthy every single day and I feel clear, bro, I'm a human being. Like, I'm also trying to figure my shit out.
Totally.
But I know how to ask for help. I have great people, mentors, parents, friends, family. Like, yeah, man.
Definitely have a lot of people around you supporting you, but
It's the people, man.
I'm not saying that I'm in the same position, but as a leader myself, and the thing I've built, it takes a village, man. Like you need those people. I'm not here without the hard work of my team, without my business partner and I taking insane risks, without saying no to. I haven't watched like football in years up until this weekend or this holiday season. I watched a game with some of my old buddies. I've gone to the movies. I've denied myself so many things that, you know, they might seem like trivial sacrifices, but this is what's normal. But like, I want to be normal. Like that sounds
It
like
requires obsession, man.
horrible way to realize my potential, which we kind of started this podcast talking about, is my purpose and what I want to do with this one life I have, and a true fundamental belief that I own is to realize potential. We all have a potential within us, and I think it's our duty to do the best that we can to realize that. And that's not maximizing potential, because like there's a lot of areas in your life that you could maximize, but then others fall apart. We all see fat doctors. We all see, even the greats, the Tom Brady's and Michael Jordans, who have terrible personal lives, who have sacrificed so much. Like that's not. I'm not talking about just trying to be the best of all time, right? But I am talking about being the best of all time for you, and you exemplify that with a lot of things that you do. And bro, again, I really cherish you. Having you in my life, calling you a brother, a friend. We've created some really cool memories this year. We're about to create a whole lot more in 2025. Two things, and then I'll let you go. You were talking about books that changed your life. Well, a good friend of mine who's built his own massive company, shout out to Adam Chapman, he gave me this book over the holidays while I was back visiting, called Buy Back Your Time. And both Jamie and I pretty much completed the book in like 2 weeks. Like, it's a good one when you're like, I can't wait to like probably tonight, like I'm going to finish it because I'm so excited to like finish this book by Dan Martell. And bro, I'm telling you right now, like just brother to brother, like that is one thing that I see is going to be an ever increasing challenge for you as you scale and grow KYP into it realizing its potential. Is like that time is so sacred and you're being pulled so many directions. It's difficult to say no, right? And you do a really good job on the outside of balancing it, but only when your head hits the pillow at night, fuck, I wish I could have, I didn't, if I,
I'll tell you what, man. I will read this book. I live a blessed life, and the cool thing about what I said earlier, when I said like, I knew that I wanted to find that balance and have that time for me, and then build a successful life around that. I think I've really been able to do that as of now, and obviously, like this is my high season. It's January, rescaling. Hired 2 people last week, but I can also say no to everything and everyone and do absolutely nothing whenever I want.
Yeah.
So I'm all for buy back time, and I know I'm gonna need to learn to do that as we scale and get busier.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, man, that I have a lot of freedom right now, but it's taken an extreme amount of sacrifice in order to figure out what that looks like, how it works, and how to incorporate it in a
Beautiful
way.
You're still reading the book. I don't care.
Yeah, I read the book.
But no, I appreciate that. And look, I
And I
think,
keep Shabbat.
yes, that is
I do
huge.
not work. I don't do anything work related between Friday and Saturday evening.
Yeah.
And
That's a
that
beautiful
connection to
thing.
my faith has moved mountains for me. the past year and a half.
I love that so much. I've participated in a couple Shabbat dinners in my life, and they've so beautiful. Put your phone away. We're not talking about work. We're here, present, connecting. I love that about the Jewish faith. Last thing, I want to give you some space to shamelessly, like this is where you turn off your humility right now, right?
Yeah.
I know you're a very humble guy. Promote the hell out of everything that you're up to right now, that you're excited about, that you want people to tune in on, and how people can work with you. Just shout it all out right now. Now's the space to do that.
I mean, I think this podcast has been a massive. Thank you for sharing, your thoughts and your experience, and I think that alone is inspiring enough for people to want to check my stuff out. Because we're changing each other's lives, so it goes back and forth, and I can't wait to have you at my show. But it's simple. I mean, you want to discover your science and optimize your life? Go to knowyourphysio.org. And you can check me out on my website, connect with me on there, myname.com, andrespreschel.com. And yeah, if this has been an episode that you've enjoyed and that if you've tuned in up until this point, thank you. If you want to dig deeper, let me know. Hit me up. Let's see if you're a good fit.
Beautiful. My brother, Andres, we're about to make some amazing stuff happen. Many years to come. But just remember, it's not that deep, baby. Thank you so much, man. I love you, man.
Love you too, bro.
Appreciate you.